18 games remaining for the Minnesota Wild on their regular season schedule, and there's one thing up for grabs besides the spot in the postseason: the 50 burger. We take a look at Kirill Kaprizov's chances to get to 50 goals this year on today's episode of Locked on Wild.
You're Locked on Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Locked on Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked on Sports Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you, as always, for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. Just a reminder, you can find Locked on Wild wherever you listen to your podcasts, absolutely free of charge. On today's episode of Locked on Wild, we dive into the numbers in Kirill Kaprizov's chase for 50 goals in a season with the remaining games, as well as how he has done statistically against the teams remaining on the Wild schedule. Today's episode of Locked on Wild brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. Kirill Kaprizov has now gone two straight games, without factoring into the scoring in any way. And this has happened two other times so far this season, which not a very frequent occurrence, but it has happened two other instances in which Kirill Kaprizov has had two straight games in which he has not registered a point. He has never, in those two instances, has never gotten to a third straight game. And the reason we bring this up is because of today's topic. All the records that Kirill Kaprizov currently holds for this team, including most goals in a season, most points in a season, most assists in a season, most power play goals in a season, you name it, he's got it. Most even strength goals in a season, I believe, is also one that Kaprizov has previously bested. And so the only spot for him really to logically go is to the half-century mark in the goals department. He had 46 last year, and little progression up the way, and especially considering what this team has done in terms of not being able to score outside of Kirill Kaprizov. It just would be the perfect way to cap this season as the Wild move towards the postseason picture. So those two instances in which Kaprizov was held off the score sheet entirely, let's go back to the first instance, which was November 3rd and November 8th. The Wild got shut out in both of those games, which obviously then would lead to nobody getting on the score sheet. And so Kaprizov, in the 4-0 loss to Seattle, had 3 shots on net. Then in the 1-0 loss to the Los Angeles Kings, he also had 3 shots on net. What did he do in the next game? He scored 2 goals against the Anaheim Ducks on 9 shots, both of them power play goals, and that ran a string in which he recorded at least a point up until December 10th. So he went on nearly a month heater in which he recorded at least a point in every game in between. And there were several goals that were in there as well, because that was right at the time that Kaprizov started his consecutive games with a goal streak. He had 7 consecutive games with a goal, from the 6-1 win over Winnipeg all the way to the 5-3 loss to the Calgary Flames. Now, the other 2-game stretch in which he did not factor into scoring was in the it was way more recent. And actually, it is these last 2 games in which the Wild shut out Calgary 3-0 and just lost to the Flames 1-0 in a shootout. 6 shots on net for Kaprizov in the loss to the Calgary Flames. Beyond that, he has never had a stretch of 3 games in which he has failed to record a point. So what we're doing is looking at the potential for Kaprizov to score 11 goals in these final 8 games. And so even before we look at the opponents and his success against particular teams, let's be honest, with Kaprizov, it's going to be a lot of success that he's had so far throughout the NHL. It just seems likely that he's going to get a ton of chances here the rest of the way to come away with goals. And he finished his most prolific goal month of the season in February, in which he had 10 goals in 13 games. He's got 2 so far in March, and again, a 2-game pointless streak. But every time he has been held off, usually comes back with a very strong effort the following game, which happens to be tomorrow night against Winnipeg. And for Kaprizov on the season, the lowest amount of goals that he's had in a calendar month was in the month of October, in which he scored 6. So we have 18 games left. And so if he hits the pace that he had in the month of February here over the final 18 games, he should be able to get the 11 that he needs. Even he's going to get it close, I think, because unless a couple of factors come into play, unless the secondary scoring improves dramatically to where there is not nearly as much pressure on that line to lead this team. But even if that does happen, that's going to lead to better opportunities for him and his line mates to attack the net and to come away with chances to score goals. So even if there is a secondary scoring uptick, that's going to lead to more chances for Kaprizov as well. And so I think it is way more likely that it does happen in these final 18 games, because he's shown the ability to do it before. The only thing that can really, I think, slow Kaprizov down is if the offense grinds to a halt as we finish off the season and goals just become super hard to come by for this team. But as we talked about after the win against the Calgary Flames, the chances are there. The opportunities to score goals are there. And if that continues, then that's going to lead to great opportunities for Kaprizov and for his teammates to score goals here down the stretch. Now, who's on the schedule? How does Kaprizov done against those particular teams? We'll start to pick apart the remaining schedule and look at how Kaprizov has done against those opponents yet on the Wild schedule. All of that coming up as we continue today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by the official sports betting partner of Locked On. That, of course, is FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America. We've hit and passed the midway point of the NBA and the NHL season, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, it's secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to the point scores to who takes the shots, who scores the goals, and who hits the threes. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss your chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Locked On. Continuing today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, make sure you check out the Locked On NHL podcast to get reaction to all of the biggest games as we gear up for the stretch run here towards the NHL playoffs. Locked On NHL is available on all of your favorite podcast platforms, absolutely free of charge. Minnesota Wild start the push to the postseason tonight against the Winnipeg Jets. And looking at the numbers for Mr. Kirill Kaprizov, his career against the Winnipeg Jets has not included a lot of goals, but it has included a ton of points. In Kaprizov's career against the Winnipeg Jets, he has scored 2 goals, but has 10 assists, 12 total points in those 6 games. Now, if you'll remember, the games against the Winnipeg Jets over the last few years have been decidedly lopsided. And you have had a ton of goals from the likes of Joel Eriksson-Ek. Kevin Fiala has had a bunch against Winnipeg over the last couple of years. Matt Boldy, Matt Zuccarello. The Wild have shared the wealth against the Winnipeg Jets. And the Jets on the schedule for the Wild a couple of times here down the stretch. They're pushing for a playoff spot. The boat is taking on a little water, especially on defense. And so there should be opportunities for Kirill Kaprizov to come away with some goals against the Winnipeg Jets, because they're going to have plenty to play for here down the stretch. But it is a team that is not playing its best hockey of the season. They're 2-6-2 in their last 10. And so he should have plenty of opportunities in this one to start off the second half schedule. Well, the final 18, I guess we'll call it, for the rest of the season. We then jump to the San Jose Sharks on Saturday. Kaprizov in his career against San Jose, 13 games. He's got 5 goals and 5 assists. And most importantly for Kirill's chase at 50, San Jose Sharks are struggling to make saves. Kaapo Kähkönen has been absolutely put on an island there by the Sharks, who traded Timo Meier. They've got some youth in the lineup. Should be an opportunity here for Kaprizov as well to come away with goals against a team he has had plenty of success against throughout the course of his young season. I mean, remember back to the COVID season in which the Wild were in the West and played all their games against Western Conference opponents. He terrorized everybody in that division, including the San Jose Sharks. And so I'm sure he's eager to do it again, starting up on Saturday against the Sharks. After that, it's the Arizona Coyotes. Kirill Kaprizov in 14 career games against Arizona. 9 goals, 11 assists, 20 points in 14 games played. He may get to 50 goals in that game alone against the Coyotes on Sunday. With the fact that beaten on the road against the Coyotes, they'll be out for vengeance, and just another opportunity for Kaprizov to get on a roll and to come away with a goal or 2 or 10 against the Coyotes this weekend. So that is the weekend schedule. We then have at St. Louis on Wednesday. Kaprizov has some pretty good success against the Blues throughout the course of his young career. 12 career games against St. Louis, 5 goals, 4 assists, 9 total points. And that included, when the Blues were at their best, the playoff series last year, in which Kaprizov single-handedly took that series over, tried to win it by himself. So even though it's not postseason, Kaprizov should have that same level of intensity and aggression to try to take those Blues down now that they are On the outside of the playoff picture looking in, a lot of players jettisoned at the deadline. And so that should also be another opportunity for him to come away with a goal or 10. Really, the most tricky stretch is March 18th through March 21st. You've got Boston at home, Washington at home, and then New Jersey on the road. Kaprizov does not have a ton of experience against the Boston Bruins, as you would expect, but he does in 3 career games against the Boston Bruins. He has 3 career goals. This is a Bruins team. They're the toast of the NHL. That one may be a little tricky for Kaprizov, but again, in his career, 3 goals in 3 games against the Boston Bruins. Alex Ovechkin then comes to town after the Boston game, and it's interesting because in 2 career games against the Washington Capitals, now Kaprizov did miss another game as well, another opportunity to play against the Capitals. Kaprizov does not have a goal in those 2 games against Washington. So just for argument's sake, let's say that's a stretch in which Kaprizov does not factor into the scoring against the Bruins or the Capitals. Well, then you would look at the game against the New Jersey Devils coming up after that as an opportunity for him to start a new point streak and to get back on track. But Alex Ovechkin in town, and so Kirill will probably want to try to put on a little bit of a show in front of the home fans, in front of his idol, coming to XL Energy Center. Washington on the fringe of the playoff picture, but still a dangerous team as ever. And the matchups previously this season have been relatively close between these 2 teams. The New Jersey Devils, Kaprizov, 2 goals in 3 career games against New Jersey and 3 career points in those 3 career games. Devils are a wagon as well. This one will be in New Jersey, and so you'd imagine that the Devils are going to try to make life miserable for Kirill in that game. And so that is a little bit of a tough stretch for Kaprizov to try to come away with those goals that he needs to get to the 50 goal plateau. But then there's a little bit of hope in the last few games of March after that. So you go to New Jersey, then on March 23rd, you go to the Philadelphia Flyers. Kirill Kaprizov, 1 goal in 3 career games, hasn't played a ton against the Flyers. Flyers also not particularly good and trending downward since the last time these 2 teams matched up. So another opportunity for him to come away with some goals in those games against the Flyers. You then have the mostly reeling Chicago Blackhawks. Kaprizov has 3 goals in 6 career games, but he's got 5 assists, 8 total points in the 6 games against Chicago. And if there is a team that has the youth that Chicago does out there on the ice right now, as evident by one of their lineups over their past few games, that'll be a tough one for Chicago, you would think, for them to slow Kirill Kaprizov down. And so that first half of the final 18 games, there will be plenty of opportunities to have Kaprizov come away with some goals. But the second 9, the back 9 of the rest of the regular season, there are even more opportunities for him to get to that mark as well. And so we'll finish today's episode by taking a look at the back 9 of the final 18 of the season, see if Kirill Kaprizov can get to the 50-goal plateau. We'll take a look at all of that as we finish today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Are you looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories? You've got to give Built Bar a try. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, 100% real chocolate. They come in some unbelievable flavors too, like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I don't know how Built Bars continues to find ways to do this, but Built Bars contain just 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. Best of all, you no longer need to wait to grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can head to your local Walmart or Sam's Club today to grab a box right off the shelves and enjoy your snacking immediately. If you don't have one handy, you can always head to built.com and order a box and count the days until it comes to your front door. Either way, whichever method you choose to go with Built Bar today. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wilds. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Pre-game preview coming up for you later today. Taking a look at the Winnipeg Jets in full detail for tonight's game. As is customary, we usually just wait to see how things go when the team gets in for morning skate, see if there are any lineup changes, anything along those lines. Just want to make sure that we got everything before we dial it up. So keep an eye out for that throughout the day as your second listen here on Locked On Wild. So taking a look now at the back nine, to steal a phrase, popular phrase from the world of golf. Looking at the remainder of the schedule for the Wild, as Kirill Kaprizov continues his chase for 50 goals. Now, the Seattle Kraken, after that road trip against Philly, New Jersey, they then come home to play Chicago and the Seattle Kraken on March 27th. Kaprizov, in 5 career games against Seattle, has 1 goal and 5 assists. And Seattle, a team playing for the postseason picture. So depending on how things play out, I think still too far out for them to start to look at trying to get everybody healthy before the playoffs begin. So should have an opportunity or two in that game, especially at home. Would imagine if the Wilds continue on the roll that they're on, that there are going to be some exciting games down the stretch. So opportunity for Kaprizov to get some. There should be in that game against Seattle. There may not be a team in which Kaprizov, other than Arizona, has more success against than the next opponent, which is the Colorado Avalanche on March 29th. Kaprizov in 14 career games, 10 goals, 5 assists. And a Colorado team that still has those upper echelon guys, but has struggled at points this season. That game will lend some opportunities as well, with Kaprizov having some good history against those Avs. We then get another one of those home and homes. The Wild will play at Vegas on April 1st, then home against Vegas on April 3rd. Kaprizov in his career against the Vegas Golden Knights has 7 goals, 10 total points in 12 career games. Another team battling for playoff positioning. Another team, it may be too early at that point for them to start looking at trying to get people rested up and ready. Should be a good fight between the two, but in a city like Vegas, nobody better than Kirill to put on a little bit of a show for the road fans, and then for the home fans on the back end of it. To finish off the season, 2 new opponents. The Pittsburgh Penguins on April 6th. Not a whole lot to go off of in terms of career games played for Kirill. Just 3 career games played against the Pittsburgh Penguins. He has 2 goals and an assist. He scored on pretty much everybody. And so should have opportunities for that Penguins team pushing for their absolute playoff lives. You then get another game against the Blues, a team that Kirill has had solid success against throughout his career. Then it's at Chicago, home against Winnipeg to finish off the home portion of the schedule, and then they finish the season at Nashville on April 13th. Kirill in his career against the Nashville Predators, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points in 6 career games. So all of that summation to simply say that it is possible, probably more trending towards likely, that Kaprizov gets to 50 goals this year. But I think if we're looking at what is best for this team this year, it's something that probably won't happen. And that isn't a bad thing, because if the secondary scoring for this team does pick up, that second line with Johansson, with Boldy, with Eriksson Ek has looked really good. If those guys continue to get it done, start scoring some goals, take some pressure off, and if you get even another line, then that can help contribute goals here and there, then that is going to mean that Kaprizov has to do less in order for this team to win games. And so, yes, it would be great fun. It'll be exciting to see how it plays out down the stretch of the season. It'll be the one thing that we can keep an eye on. Like we had last year, all those records being broken all the way through to the end of the year. This is one that we can keep an eye on, because 50 is a big target for especially a Wild player. Never had anybody do that before. And so it will be the thing to keep an eye on, the single biggest thing to keep an eye on outside of the playoff push. And ultimately, whether it happens or not, if anybody's going to make it happen, it's Kirill Kaprizov. And so just take a second to sit back and enjoy the fact that we get to watch Kirill on a nightly basis chase records like this, because outside of him, it would be a while before anybody would have a chance to even get to that level of production. So whether or not he gets there, again, depends on how the rest of the team is doing. And unless they absolutely crater again to where he is basically carrying the whole team, it may not. But then again, it may. That will do it for today's episode of Locked on Wild. Now that your first listen of the day is done, make sure you check out Game to Game NHL on the Locked on NHL YouTube channel and podcast feed, giving you the biggest reaction to all of the night's games from all of our Locked on NHL experts. Again, Game to Game NHL, available in the Locked on NHL podcast feed wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure that you are following along with Locked on Wild wherever you tune in, so that you don't miss out on any of our full episodes, any of our pre- and post-game content, and other social media content as well throughout the week. We've got a lot for you on more than a daily basis, so make sure that you follow along so you don't miss out on anything going on with the Wild here the rest of the season. We've got new episodes every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Sports Podcast Network.